Just that change is, for most consumers in the U.S., is the biggest impact that they can have on climate. It's bigger than putting solar on your house, though that's a good thing to do. It's bigger than driving an EV, though that's a good thing to do. It's bigger than changing out your gas appliances to be electric appliances, also a good thing to do. But the biggest impact most people can have is just move their money, and that's where the what you'd call the green banking industry comes into play, which is how to put your money to work and do well for yourself, but have it be consistent with your values. And there's different ways that different banks go about that, but that's the core.
Welcome, everybody, back to another exciting show of the About That Water podcast, where we talk about building wealth in so many different aspects in different areas. And also we are focusing on the sandwich generation, helping them build credit so that they can spend money, talk about money, and enjoy their money in a way that they have complete control and confidence. So one of the things that I want to talk about today is actually green banking. And I have one of the people who is the CEO of GreenFi, a climate-focused fintech company. I cannot hold this guy any further back because he has so much information to bring to you. Welcome to the show, Tim.
Thank you, Anthony. I really appreciate it. Love the show. I'm really happy to be on. And so I'm happy to dive in with you.
Yeah. So for a lot of people who are new to just fintech in general, can you just talk about a little bit about that?
So I guess the best way to start is what we are. We're a financial technology company. What that means is we're not a bank. We work with banks, we partner with banks, but we really focus on being able to pull together a series of products to present to our customers. And in doing that, we provide the conduit to banks, or it could be crypto firms, or it could be investment firms who are the regulated entities. But our focus is on pulling together a financial experience that matches the customers that we are targeting. And so the banks and investment companies are in the background, and we're working directly with customers. And in our case, our customers are climate conscious consumers who believe that the climate is an important issue, and they're working in various ways in their own life to try to do something about that. And if that, for your listeners, if that feels like that describes them, they're in good company, because there's about 100 million people in the United States who qualify themselves that way. They think that's something that's important to them. And they want to try to do something about it. And my company's job is to find easy, effective ways for them to do that, to do well with their money while doing good for the planet.
Wow, that is really good, because one of the things that I came across during my research was that almost 40% of US consumers say that they would rather enroll in a climate-linked financial product. So can you talk a little bit more about what is green banking?
Sure. So to do that, the best way is to start with traditional banking and to understand it. So if you are like most people and your money, your deposits, your cash is sitting in one of the 10 biggest banks in the US, then up to 30% of your deposits are being used to fund fossil fuels. That's just the structure of our banking system. And that means if you personally care about the climate and you're trying to do what you can in your own life to do that as much as you do, behind the scenes, your bank account is undoing all that you may try to do. And so what we focus on, and what people who are in the green banking industry focus on, is how to deliver great financial products that meet the financial goals of our customers, but do it in a way that is climate friendly. And we do that by, at the very beginning, saying we give a pledge that none of the deposits, none of the funds people put with us will go to support the fossil fuels industry. And it's a basic pledge up front. And just that change is, for most consumers in the US, is the biggest impact that they can have on climate. It's bigger than putting solar on your house, though that's a good thing to do. It's bigger than driving an EV, though that's a good thing to do. It's bigger than changing out your gas appliances to be electric appliances, also a good thing to do. But the biggest impact most people can have is just move their money. And that's where the what you'd call the green banking industry comes into play, which is how to put your money to work and do well for yourself, but have it be consistent with your values. And there's different ways that different banks go about that, but that's the core idea.
Yeah, because you mentioned values. What is the values for GreenFi?
So we are climate focused, meaning our customers are customers who they may care about a lot of things, but climate and impacts on climate are something that is an important consideration for them, and they try to take action on that basis. And so we try to natively build in climate protection into all of our products. And so if you are depositing money with us, you know that it's not going to be used to support fossil fuels. And you can sign up so that every time you swipe your debit card, that we're planting trees in some of our projects around the world.
Wow.
And so our customers fund the planting of trees, a tree every about 7 seconds, 24/7, 365.
That's awesome.
We're planting about 2.5 football fields of trees a day. When I say we, I'm meaning our customers are doing this. And last year, our customers banded together to plant 4.5 million trees. And that's reforesting areas that not only helps the climate because we're pulling carbon out of the air, but it's also helping ecosystems and it's helping the communities in which those projects take place. And we also offer programs like planet protection, where not everyone's either ready or able to drive an electric vehicle, but we'll offset the carbon when you pull up and have to fill up the gas of your car if that's what you're driving, and we'll go ahead and offset that for you automatically. And so there's various features that we offer that are all designed to make it easy and simple to have climate impact while just going about your business. We're not asking you to change your life or go vegan or do something else. Just go about your life, deposit your money, spend, invest, do what you need to do, but do it in a way that you feel good about it, about being able to have an impact.
That is awesome. I like those core values because we had a prior episode talking about ESG investing. And for the reminder for people, that ESG is environmental, social, and governance. Just around your investing, make sure you're just doing something that's good for the government, for the planet, as well as you can, and as much as you can, and try to lower your footprint. So I noticed on the website that it talks about different investment tools and avenues. So does GreenFi provide like education about the ESG process and what things that you guys are investing in?
So we do provide education around that. We offer different investment funds, whether it's a straightforward brokerage fund or it's a retirement fund for you, that will allow you to put money in a way that is consistent with what you said with ESG, with a broader social benefit. The Redwood Fund is our flagship fund. It's been performing very well this year, so I'm really happy about it. And it's one of the areas in which we are most interested in building out new products for. And where we're going is that, and it really requires the use of AI, and so we're leaning heavily into that to be able to do it, which is as anyone looks at making investments and is beginning to choose investments, we want to be able to give a score for an investment that they're looking at and just seeing how climate friendly is that, how carbon intensive, and what are different alternatives that may meet the same goal but are more climate friendly. And that's some products that we're actively working on right now.
Okay. And a lot of people, like, I have to say that somebody just came to me recently,
Mhm.
and because did a live episode talking about UTMAs and UGMAs for their children. And when it came to high yield savings accounts, that came up a lot. Now, I noticed you guys offer a 3% APY high yield savings account.
Mhm.
Is this savings a little different than your normal savings, or is all of your banking is at high yield savings?
So all of our savings accounts have the same yield, up to
Wow.
3%, and depending on a couple of factors. What I would say to your listeners is your money should be working for you every day, and
Mm,
so wherever you have your money, it should be sitting in some place that earns you 3% or more. And why? Because you want to stay ahead of inflation.
yeah,
and
which is
and
like
that's that's
2%.
how you don't see a declining wealth as opposed to your money working for you and growing along. So it's another one of those things. If you're sitting in one of the big banks, you're probably earning 0.01%
Yeah.
on your savings, right? Don't do that. Move your money, make your money work for you. Whether you put it with me or whether you put it with someone else, make your money work for you. You deserve it. Your money deserves it. Be nice to your money.
Right. I mean, yeah, they need to make some friends. Make them make friends.
Well, they need to make more friends.
Right.
That's right.
I like the way you think. So, but what got you here in the first place? Because you didn't just think of GreenFi like out of thin air, did you?
I'd like to say that I did, but
Oh.
that would be a lie. Um, it was a long path here, and I can walk all the way through that. But I'll give you the short edition, which is I actually started out in politics and government, and so I spent the first part of my career in in Washington D.C. near you, and working mostly around technology and the intersection between technology and regulated industries and large problems that we want to solve. And and when I was released from the government on good behavior, I came out to California, came out to Silicon Valley, and I began working in startups, either investing in startups or advising startups or as a founder in companies or working in startups, all at this intersection between technology and hard problems, and increasingly it was about climate, and it was just the problem that I wanted to take on, and it was how do you put together financial products and financial platforms that can help. And um, I had started several companies, but I'd started a company, Common Assets, with a partner of mine, that would allow individuals to invest in the big portfolios of residential solar assets that were being built. So this was when the solar industry was really taking off,
Yeah.
and major banks and hedge funds, investment companies were investing in these large portfolios of solar assets, and I wanted to give individual investors a chance to do the same thing. So we built a platform to sell solar bonds. So you just invest in and get returns from solar. And that company was bought by the biggest solar company in the U.S. at that time, Solar City. And I went on to stay with them and build financial products for individuals to help them buy solar systems. And it was my first introduction to working for Elon Musk,
Oh
as he
wow.
was chairman of that company. And then Solar City was bought by another of his companies, Tesla, that you may have heard of.
Yes.
And I did the same at Tesla. I worked in building the financial infrastructure to allow people to buy cars.
That is so
And
cool.
I remember sitting in the meeting and Elon looking and saying, "We want to sell a car in 1 minute, and that includes the financing."
Wow.
And so I'm thinking, okay, think about your experience at the last car dealer you went to, and how long it took to get the financing done. Was that
Four
more than one
hours.
minute? Yes, it
Yeah.
was. And I thought to myself at that moment, wow, that's not going to happen. But I had learned a very important rule in working for Elon in particular, which is never say no.
Mm.
Right? Go away, figure it out. Don't say no.
Gotcha.
And that has been something that sort of has served me well, which is don't say no and don't take no.
Mm.
When I left Tesla, I was relaxing for a while. 7 years of working for Elon was enough for a while, and a friend who was a venture capitalist and was an investor and chairman of a company, Aspiration Partners, asked me to come and take a look at the company, and it was a social and values based bank, but they were shifting to try to focus on investing in global carbon markets, and but they had this bank that had been around for 10 years, and they were trying to figure out, well, what should we do with it? And like a lot of companies at the time, fintech companies, companies of finance, they had been trying to go very rapidly to be able to do an IPO or a SPAC to try to get to the public markets, and which means they're pouring a lot of money in. And that was great when interest rates were really low and investment capital was pretty much free. And then one day it wasn't.
Yeah.
And one day interest rates went up and investment capital is no longer really available. And they were losing a lot of money and struggling with what to do. And long story short, I ended up proposing to them and working out with the chairman that I buy the assets for that business from them, because I thought that it could be restructured, and I saw value in it, but I didn't see it being able to be done there. It needed to be done a different way. And I essentially acquired the business and then began restructuring it. And that was a long, tough job. I mean, when I first took it over, there were about 400 people working there. Today, there are about 40.
Wow.
And that's nothing to feel great about, because it felt really awful to go through that process.
Mm-hmm.
But the challenge with it's great to have a business that is values driven and focused on climate and those things, but to really have an impact, you have to be profitable and grow. You really do. And you have to be able to offer customers a great customer experience and great products. And that's not what I found when I started. And we spent the better part of 2 years rebuilding the company and leaned heavily into using AI. And that's why we can run with 10% of the team that we once did, and why we've cut the technology costs and the vendor costs about 60%. And now we're moving forward to roll out a whole series of new products. But that's how I got here. I came in to look at a company. I decided that there was an opportunity. I took the risk. I bought it out and have been restructuring it to build the next, what we believe will be the next great consumer finance brand that's climate friendly. Think Patagonia for your banking account.
I like that, because one of the things that a lot of banks, either they overlook it, they probably see it, but it's like there is no money in it to try to run it sustainably. And I commend you for just restructuring it and make it environmentally safer than the others, and lowering that footprint and actually provide meaning for your money. Did your parents?
The great part is that you don't have to compromise. You can have 3% yield on your savings account and have your money have a great impact for the planet. That's the thing, is you don't have to choose between them,
Right.
and that's the most important thing, which is focus with your money on not only on how you're building it, not only on the legacy of wealth that you may leave to your children, but how does that legacy of wealth fit the legacy of your value system at the same time? Because that's part of the wealth and part of what you're leaving your children.
Now, will this 3% fluctuate as the market does, or this is just a flat 3%?
All banks will fluctuate their interest rates, somewhat as the market. It'll rise as interest rates, as the Fed raises interest rates, and they'll decline somewhat as the Fed drops interest rates. The difference is I might raise mine or lower mine, but with the big banks, you start off at sort of rock bottom. So that's where you are
until you put like 100,000 or 200,000 into the
exactly.
bank. Yeah,
exactly.
And then only FDIC insured until like what 20? Yeah, was it 250,000?
FDIC insurance is 250,000 per account. The way that we do that is that we'll take deposits and we'll spread them across a few banks because we work with banks to hold the FDIC insured deposits. So we offer our customers $1 million worth of. They can deposit up to $1 million and have it be FDIC insured.
Wow. Okay. Now that is key. I did not know that is a way. Like, if there's a will, there's a way. Like you said, don't say no. You got to find a way. I love that. Did your parents instill that in you?
To my parents, my father was a military man, and he was in the Army. And I spent, the first part of my life traveling around the world and living in different places and living on Army bases. And really what was instilled was a sense of service, which is you need to dedicate yourself to something bigger than yourself. Yeah. And it was one of the values that was clearly there throughout my upbringing was that sense of service. And the second thing that came out of that was that working hard and personal integrity were I would say the values that definitely he passed on and were part of all our upbringing. All of my siblings eventually went into the military themselves and served around the world, and I took a slightly different path and instead served in Congress and served in the congressional staff and served in the White House staff in Washington. But it's all service, and I still think of what we do today as a service. It's a service to our customers. It's a service to the values that we have.
Yeah, man, I could really listen to like your story for like hours because I have so many more questions about like acquiring the business, dealing with the employees, how do you actually hire and fire? What is that process?
But, happy to talk them through.
I mean, how much time you got?
Keep going.
We can keep going. Okay. Because I do want to get to that point because it goes back to your values of serving. And like you said earlier, that it didn't feel good, but it was a must need done. So how do you determine on what to cut or who to cut in that industry?
It's really tough. And anytime you're affecting people's lives and families, it's really, really tough. And for the most part, they're all good people. And so that doesn't make it easier. There are some people who knowingly or unknowingly raise their hand and say, I don't really want to be a part of this, either by their actions or by what they say. And so those are easier. There were also a group of the team who they thought they were joining a big company that's about to go public. And when they found what it really was going to be was a startup with both startup risk and startup speed and startup requirements, then I encouraged all of the employees to think hard about, did they want that environment? Because it's not right for everybody. And everyone should know their own risk tolerance and what they need. And if what you really needed at that point in your life was just to have very regular hours and regular job and very steady and not much change, sometimes that's what people need. But that's not what typically a technology startup delivers. And so there was a group of people who clearly that was their choice. And then you have to really just dive in and start digging into what are your requirements? What do you really need to run the business? Because again, you have to be able to run the business profitably or be heading toward profitability, because that's the only way you can scale up. And the only way you can really have impact on either consumers or the climate for us is to scale up. And so we did a bottoms up analysis. What do we need? What do we really think we can get away with? What do we need for marketing and operations and building products and compliance and technology and engineering and those things. And then I sat down with the leaders and really let them drive in each of their areas. Okay, what do we think the best team from what we have that can go forward? And and you have a group of good people that you trust, or that you come to trust. You work together enough, and you trust them, and you move forward. And so there's a group of 7 or 8 people who on the management team who feel like we've just been through the wars together, and we trust each other, we know each other, and when you have something hard to take on, it's like a sports team that has a tradition of winning. You're used to taking on hard problems and solving them, and so you continue thinking that you're doing that. And so when you have to do one of these, letting people go or working through that, it's just part of the hard problems you need to solve. It's heartbreaking, but you have to do it.
So is it easier to like acquire a business or start it from the ground up? Because you hear a lot of people that want to, I want to start my own business. I want to start my own business versus acquiring a business that's already in your niche, something that you're proud of and you can really run with.
Each has their pluses and minuses, right? If you're acquiring a business that is already up and running, you've taken some of the risk out of it, and you can grow faster from there. But you're also taking on existing problems and maybe a legacy way of doing business or thinking that can be difficult to change, and it can be wrenching to change. Whereas with a startup, you're starting from zero, and so it takes a while to get some momentum and some growth, and but at the same time, you get to build it exactly the way you think it needs to be built, and without any legacy issues holding you back. So it's really a case by case, which is the better way to do it. Do you want to take on that challenge of, I'm going to start something with, myself or one person or another person and build it all, and grow it from there? Or do you want to take on the challenge of taking something that has some real value in it, but you're going to have to restructure it? Restructuring is not for the faint of heart, because you're in that proverbial car driving down the highway at 60 miles an hour, and you're rebuilding the damn car while you're driving, and there's, it's different than having the car in a garage, building it piece by piece, and then saying, let's take it out and see how it drives.
I like that analogy. We usually do the airplane model, where it's like we're flying the plane and trying to build the wings at the same time.
Yes.
Because when you go into the hiring piece, do you look for A students or just people that are like really excited about one niche, or they got like side projects, or they have like something they've proven in a different job? Because the reason why I ask is because a lot of people right now are losing their jobs by so many different means, especially from the government, are getting cut left and right. And sometimes they either did side projects or that was their specialty at work. So when you go to look at a resume, or if your team looks at a resume, what are you guys looking for specifically?
I'm looking for a few things. One, I'm looking for someone who really has some knowledge in the area that they're working in, and especially as technology drives businesses forward, and as AI really drives us all forward, that you end up focusing on people who have some real expertise. And we can talk about the challenge for young people coming into the workforce, and with that, because I think that's real. Yes. But we're looking for someone who really comes with some knowledge. We're looking for people that who are player coaches. What that means is that we generally don't have managers. We have people who are getting in and doing the business, and then over time they have people working with them to do it. But they have the ability to do it themselves, and they are the primary expert in their area. And as opposed to managing people who manage people who can do it, we really look for people who can do it themselves and move forward. So I also put a lot of emphasis on whether people have an understanding of their risk profile, right? Which we talked about before. Which is you have to understand, is this the right place for you? And when you're in a business that by its nature is going to pivot a lot, where you come in one day and your job just changed, and you come in the next day and now you got two jobs that you didn't have before. Some people thrive in that environment, and you're looking for that, right? You're looking for someone who wants to move fast and break things and go, and who you can't really phase them, right? You give them a new problem, they solve a problem. They get a problem, they solve a problem, because that's what it's all about. Find a problem, fix a problem. Find a problem, fix a problem. And they need a level of resilience that is something that you can't really replace. That kind of resilience, and it is such a crucial part of this, because almost the most important thing about startups like this, or about building these businesses, is don't quit. Just don't quit. Because almost all of these businesses, whether you're fundraising or whether you're building the business or you're trying to sell or you're looking for that job, it's all no, 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 yes, right? Yep. And so you have to realize no does not mean stop. No is just one step closer to yes. And you want to find people who just don't quit. And I would take that over someone who's the most brilliant person any day of the week, any 8 days of the week, to do that. Wow. So just don't quit. So
okay, that is awesome. So that, but also it's like, how do you prove that within that first few moments of time that you have with somebody else, unless they share with you that story of like, man, I was just struggling with this, and it just took me like forever until I went home. I was in the shower, and I was like, I got it. Now I can actually solve it. Like
you get to the point where you can start to pick up the signals, and you ask the right questions, and you one of the great interviewers of this that I found was when I was coming out of government. I one of the spots I considered going to work was Amazon. And I remember sitting in a meeting with Jeff Bezos while he walked through this, and it was none of the normal questions. It was all, he was testing how I thought, he was testing how fast I could think, he was testing how I did with questions that were basically had no answer, but he expected an answer, right? Gotcha. And at one point he said, you came in to interview for this job. I want you to do this job instead. And he was looking for, how would I react to that? And so part of it is just, you get to learn how to talk to people and how to dig in. And then you can also just be honest with them. Here's what it requires. Are you that person? And do you think you're that person? Right? Because you quickly find out if they're that person once they're on board. So trust me. And if they're not that person, they'll be miserable. They won't be effective. And their peers will see it pretty quickly.
Yeah. And so, like they say, thoroughbreds run with thoroughbreds.
Yeah, and I don't mean to say that you're either that person or you're not, right? Someone could be that person for in GreenFi, because they love it, they have the ideas, they have some experience put to work, and they just love that build. But then another context, another business, another type of job, they're just not, right? And so it doesn't mean you are or you aren't. It just means find the place where you can put that to work. The other thing is, I always just look for people smarter than I am. Which some people would laugh and say, well, that's not hard, Tim. But, I mean, so, the old saw, which is A players hire A players, B players hire C players, right? You hire A players all the time. The biggest benefits you get in the business, the biggest accelerant for your business is really great people, right? Yeah. The biggest drag is people who are not as good. So those are the most important decisions you make, is who are you bringing on? My job as the CEO is relatively simple. It's not easy, but it's simple, which is set a vision for the business, hire a team to execute against that vision and work with them to set the strategy, and then give them the resources to do their jobs, right? That's what I do. And so the most important part of that is hiring that team to get it done.
I like that, because when like working for teams, and I used to manage multiple teams, is that I always find the laziest person on the team and I'll have them lead the projects. Mostly because they'll
You're
find
a cruel man, Anthony. Just a cruel man.
because I will have them lead it mostly because they either the most disgruntled and just doesn't understand the process.
Mhm.
But they find things that are outside of the norm to make it simpler, make it easy to use,
Mhm.
and everybody winds up liking it. And I was like, I like this, but it's a rotational thing. So I don't let them, obviously the projects come and go. So it's just kind of one of those
I think
moments.
I think laziness can be a great personal strength,
Mm,
right? That's the person who's going to say, "No, I don't want to do it the way you've been doing it because there's an easier way,"
yeah.
right? And you want to encourage that about people, right? You have to be willing to hear no or hear do it different or we don't want to do it that way.
Yeah. And I have to say that a lot of people coming from the government that has been in the government since like high school work study, they was like, I don't understand. I don't compute. This is the way it's been. This is the way we like to do it. I don't like to take anything extra. This is the way it is. And it irritates me a lot. So that's one of the reasons why I had to move around.
I felt really lucky in my time in government because I worked for some great people.
Mhm.
Norm Mineta, who's a fabulous member of Congress from Silicon Valley, and then Bill Clinton and Al Gore in the White House. And I got to work on issues that were all about growth and change because it was all about using science and technology to address hard problems.
Nice.
And I would not have done very well in an environment that was about doing something else, processing loan applications or doing something else. And you got to know yourself. You got to know because everyone can be innovative. You just got to know where is the right place for you to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
I like that. So because we're talking about innovation, this brings us up to the third segment, which is the futures.
mhm.
What skills or habits that you feel that will take you? You can either go personal, or even with your business, to that next level.
Okay, I'll do a mix.
Okay.
So skills and habits. Uh, I talked about one of them, which is in all of these challenges, don't quit. It's resilience. And more than being brilliant, more than having the best idea, ideas are cheap.
Yeah.
They are, right?
Yep.
People who can execute ideas, that's more often about showing up and just grinding away at it because you're really focused on getting it done. And you just don't quit. No matter how many obstacles are thrown at you, you just don't quit. So that's a really crucial skill for people to have. The second thing that I would say is that your operating system in business, as it is in other places, is people. In order to get it, again, ideas are cheap, but in order to get anything done, in order to build something, you need to get people to see your vision. You need to get people to work with you and build that vision. You need to get people to want to invest in that vision. You need to get people to willing to buy your products, right? That any success you have, with some exceptions, but rarely, is going to come because you figured out that working with people was your route to succeed. And in a sense, I was lucky. I started off in politics and government, where that was sort of 90% of it was understanding people's motivations, their concerns, their interests, and trying to find ways to be able to bridge those. And it is the same thing in business, same thing in startups. Your operating system is people. And I would take someone who's really, really good at working with people to someone who is just an expert any day of the week.
Interesting.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, that was really good. So, is there like a book that you would recommend that you've read that kind of help you out understanding people?
So I'll answer this question maybe in the way that you don't think I would, or maybe somebody else don't, which is I have always been a reader. I read a lot of books, and I could pick out a business book or I could say something, but I think that I'd recommend something else. Two of my very favorite authors were Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain, and George Bernard Shaw. Both satirists, both spent most of their careers looking at people and dissecting us all. And with Mark Twain, it was the focus was on making us look at ourselves and not take ourselves seriously and question ourselves and question our motivations. And he had the very famous quote that whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect.
Wow. Okay.
Which is a great quote that I've loved from him. And then the other that I wanted to bring up was George Bernard Shaw, who was similar, an English author who, but what his real lane was focusing on looking at social systems and how we exist in social systems and how ridiculous it can be, but how we get there. It's like if Mark Twain focused on the nonsense that we are, then Shaw focused on how do we build that nonsense? Why do we build it? And if you're trying to build things, and if you're trying to do something different, then it really helps to cultivate a sense of questioning. Question yourself, question the structure, question the practices or how it was done, because you're trying to change that.
Yeah.
And you really need to be able to do it. And so I recently reread a bunch of works of both Samuel Clemens and George Bernard Shaw as I was going through this building process. And it's a wonderful sort of witty way of reteaching ourselves that lesson. And one of the best quotes, if anybody's thinking about starting a business or doing a startup or anything else, was George Bernard Shaw, who said very famously, "The reasonable man adapts himself to the world, and therefore all progress depends on the unreasonable man."
Okay. It's going to take me, I'm going to have to rewind it a little bit. I'm going to have to rewind it myself and play that back, because I would definitely have to live in that moment to figure out where am I on that spectrum, to figure out my next move.
And all of us are at different points in that spectrum at different times, right? None of us are one thing or another, right? And
like Walt Whitman said, we all contain multitudes.
We contain multitudes.
Yes.
And whose voice do you listen to of that multitude at any moment in time?
Yeah.
And which sort of takes us to often I get the question of how did I get here on this path? And there was no path. There were just challenges. And there was at each step, there was a challenge that intrigued me, that excited me, that I couldn't ignore, that I wanted to take on. And that's it. And you take on that challenge, and that challenge leads you to the next challenge. And that challenge leads you to the next challenge. And it is very much where most of us who are certainly in the business that I do, that's how they get to where they got to, which is they weren't afraid. They weren't afraid to listen to their questions. They weren't afraid to do something that was different. They weren't afraid to fail. I've failed. I've had businesses fail. I've been fired. I've been through all those things that all of your listeners have all been through themselves. And you find yourself picking yourself up and say, okay, what's the next challenge?
Yeah. So what is your next challenge?
This one is this is my challenge right now. I'm going to be building this one for a little while. And the idea of building a modern consumer finance brand that is inherently built to not only provide great financial products and help people meet their financial goals, but do it in a way that is climate friendly and protects the planet. That just feels like, to me, it's like I'm really excited about that every day. It's a great thing to be doing right now. Feels like I've been leading through this for a while. It's sort of a full circle for me. My first inside job, my first job that was not just laboring somewhere. I did enough of those.
Right.
My first inside job was one summer when I was in college. I worked in a bank as a teller.
Wow.
And it was a little community bank on a Army base in Kansas, Fort Riley. And so I worked as a teller at Fort Riley National Bank, and that was my first job, first inside job.
Right.
And now come full circle, I'm back with the bank.
Have you decided to partner with them since then?
That little bank was bought by another bank, and
Okay.
on it goes.
Yeah. Man, this is awesome. And thank you for sharing your story. So is there anything that you want to do, you want to say to the audience before we dive into the final four questions?
I think I've said a lot of what I would pass on. There's one thing I would add, which is I'm on the board of an organization that was originally started by my brother Pete Newell. The organization, the common mission that runs courses in universities throughout the country, and the purpose of those courses is to teach innovation to students. And what they do is they take on hard problems, and they form a team, and they take on a problem. And the problems are usually problems that have some national significance. They can be national security, they can be other things. And they spend a semester trying to come up with a solution to that problem that could also be a business. And so it's a great program. And hacking for defense, hacking for diplomacy, they're hacking for classes. And one of the things you watch those students go through is they'll get the problem, and they'll immediately think of a solution to the problem. And then what we say to them is, you got to get out of the building. You got to go out and talk to the people in there. You got to figure out what is real. And what inevitably happens is that their initial conclusion was wrong. And so they start off on a big high saying, we got this great problem, we've got a solution to it. And then they go through their first interviews and they find out, no, it's not actually the solution to it.
Right.
And what we see is them going through this up and down as they generate new MVPs, we call them, minimum viable products.
Yep.
And they do it again and again until they really get to the solution. But it takes a lot of up and down. And what it really takes is that you got to take that idea and you got to get out of the building. You got to go talk to people and ask your customers or potential customers, wherever they may be, is this really a solution? Is this really what you want? Forget what I want to do. Forget what I'm interested in. Yeah. Do you want this? You want this enough to buy it?
Right.
And so get out of the building and go ask questions, because what you really want is you're looking for a problem. You're trying to solve a problem. And the hardest thing is you got to understand that problem first from your customer's perspective, which may not be yours.
Yeah. And it brings up the book, The Dip. If I'm not sure if you read that yet.
I haven't read it yet. I know of it, but I haven't read it yet.
Okay. It's exactly what you just said. Usually, most of those books, you can just finish the first chapter. You kind of get the gist of the rest of them is just stories. But it's just talking about that, going through that initial dip of like, I'm wrong. Now it's just kind of like, what are you going to do to kind of get out of that dip and actually create a moment for you to shine? And that's what it is. It's amazing. And it's you're bringing back books that I haven't read in a while that I need to pick back up again. So greatly appreciate this. So you ready for the final four?
Yes, let's do it.
All righty. Question 1. What does wealth mean to you?
Great question. I'm going to answer this in two ways. Wealth means security and freedom. Security in that we all need a basic level of security. It's really hard to be innovative and really hard to be brave and really hard to stick to things if you don't have a basic level of financial security. And so however you get that is part of getting to where you want to go, which is getting to a basic level of financial security. And everybody defines that differently, but it doesn't have to be that much. But that financial security, that's wealth. And because it enables you to take a little risk, to try a different job, to try a startup, to try a career move that you might not have done otherwise. And what I would definitely counsel people is do whatever it takes. Have the side job, work at something that's not exciting, but build up that basic financial security that you need, because that security is wealth. It's not about the dollars that you have. It's just, do you have security? Does your family have security? Because it's pretty hard to do things if you're worried about where your family is going to be in a month or in 2 months, right? That takes up a lot of bandwidth in your head if that's what you're worried about. The second thing is that wealth is freedom. And it's not freedom in that you don't have to go by the rules, though it seems to be that there are a lot of people in our country who think that's what it means. That if you're really wealthy, then the rules don't apply to you. When I think about that, what I think of it gives you the freedom to try things that you might not be able to try. It gives you the freedom to extend yourself and to take some risks that you might not have been able to try. It also, very importantly to me, it gives you the freedom to live by your values. And it can be tough to live by your values when you are hand to mouth. And you got bills and debts and everything else, and you got to put that first for your family. And so wealth is getting to the point where you can start living according to your values. And I think that's just really, really important to be able to have. And it means we got to think about what our values are, but
yes.
But to be able to do that, and that's not about the total dollars. Mm-hmm. That's about am I feeling like I'm free enough to be able to do that? And that living according to your values was drilled into me when I was growing up, and has been part of my career throughout. And it's something that's just important to me. And I feel very lucky that I've had some fortune as I built companies and done some other things, and that I can indulge in really exploring how to live according to my values. And it's a constant challenge every day to try to do that. And finally, people say that money can't buy time. And it's right. We all have 24 hours in a day, but in a way it can. It can because having wealth enables you to engage in more projects, to invest in things, to participate and support a community organization that's doing something that you really think is important, to engage in activities, whether you like biking or hiking or whatever it is, you can and also to support companies and support endeavors. It enables you to extend the things that you can get involved in and extend your range more than just the hours in a day you have to work. And so wealth you can buy time, but you can buy an extension of your time in that sense. Our days are limited, but we can make those days more full.
Love it. Man, that's like it's a whole nother episode.
I love your questions, by the way. They're great questions.
Oh, thank you. Put a lot of thought into these. Took some time. Number 2, what was your worst money mistake?
Oh, my worst. Well, I could, there are definitely times when I put money in, I made investments that didn't work out, and some of them were really painful. There's definitely, some times where I invested my time in something that ultimately blew up, that didn't come back. And that's a mistake, because I could have invested that time in something else that had a better return. And so, and there's definitely those people in my life who I was standing alongside of at one moment, and now they're far, far ahead of me in wealth and other things. And so you wonder, what mistake did I make along the way? And all of us have those thoughts. And I think that the the biggest mistake, though, over time for me was not always keeping in mind I am my biggest risk, because I'm a risk taker. And so if I'm the biggest risk, then my money should not be taking a lot of risk, right? Because it's hard for me to make money because I got to risk a lot and build a lot to do it. So once I have that money, it needs to stay conservative. I need to put it to work. I need to just let it work and not play with it, not focus on it. It just needs to be safe and building and let time do its business. And the biggest pain I have taken is when I didn't follow that advice. When I wasn't careful and worked a plan and put the money away and let it work according to a plan, and keep my money safe while I roamed out in the world doing risky things.
I think
I have felt that pain, and you can say, that's what you get for leaving your money in a savings account that don't pays you 0.01%. Don't do that. Put your money somewhere where it can work for you, because you worked hard to get that money.
Yeah, like GreenFi.
Yeah, put it somewhere, right? And then keep building it. Keep invest a little bit every month. You don't notice it if they take the same amount out every month and put it in. But it builds up, and time is your most valuable ally in building wealth. If you're going to do it according to a good plan that's conservative and then builds it, you'll get there. But you've got to let time work its magic, and be conservative and be safe and let it build up.
I like it. All right, number 3. Is there a book that inspired your journey or changed your perspective?
Well, we talked about that. We talked about there's a lot of books I could point to, but I think the books most recently that I've been rereading is Samuel Clemens and Mark Twain and George Bernard Shaw. Okay. And the journey of, well, it sounds crazy, the journey of Huck and Jim down the river, and that experience and what it taught us about ourselves, or Superman by George Bernard Shaw. There's such great looks at ourselves, to dissect ourselves and dissect the society that we're in, that it helps you put aside the shackles that we all wear, and enables you to see things differently. And so those are the authors that most recently, old authors that I love, that I return to. And at this point in my life, that's what I took from it, was reminding me of that.
And I like that you're constantly digging back deeper into things that you were exposed before, to kind of see, like, have a bit different perspective now that you have some more life experience, to help you, I guess I want to say, drive that notion of, like, hey, this isn't all that cracked up to be. There has to be another way.
Well, and also things change.
Yeah.
Right. So things that were older and new again in some way. What's the saying is, you can never dip your cup into the same river, because the river has changed and so have you.
I'm like, and you're like full of quotes, man. I'm like, this.
And that's life in a way, because you've changed and you're different. And so when you look at something and you're going to take something different from it, and it will ideally, if you're open to it, it will give you what you need at the time. And whether you're reading a book of fiction you love, or a religious text, or a business book, or autobiographies, or whatever it may be, it'll give you what you need at the time, if you open yourself to it.
I like that. All right, this is the 4th question, which is, what is your favorite dish to make?
My favorite dish to make? Well, I'm coming to you today on a farm up in Vermont, and a family farm up here, and so the favorite dish to make here is definitely pancakes and maple syrup and the whole works, because it's a maple farm. And
even better, right?
yeah, even better, right? And so best maple syrup in the world is made up here. When I'm back in California, which is where I'm from, favorite dish to make. Lately, I've been making soup. That is, I love to cook and I love doing different things. But lately, what we've been really focused on making soup, and my partner's been teaching me, how to make soup differently, how to bring in different vegetables, how to bring in different spices, how to bring in nutrients that will help heal. And it's been an interesting journey.
Is there like a particular soup, or is just all soup in general?
Oh, it's are different forms of vegetable soups and it's basically walk into your refrigerator, start pulling stuff out, and how to quickly turn that into something really great. But then, which seems easy, but then her alchemy is in what are all the things you add to it that turn into something that really tastes great, but also gives your body what it needs. And she's definitely been teaching me to pay much more attention to how I live and what I put in my body. And if I don't pay more attention, I'll never catch her on the bike. So
right. You got to keep up.
Yeah. In my case, I cheat. I use electricity. I use
electric bike.
Yeah.
Yeah. I commend a lot of people who haven't converted yet. I've been on the verge of converting, but I just can't, because the weight of the bike to me is just, I need to be a little lighter so I can carry up and down the steps. So, yeah.
It's one of the first experiences I had this trip out here in Vermont was there's some great trails near here, the Kingdom Trails, that are a large network of trails throughout the hills and the mountains here that you can go mountain biking on. And for many people, they might say mountain biking, that does not sound so fun. Right. But take a bike that has a battery and that you can dial it up, and that you can use the battery to drive you up the hills, and it becomes a whole different experience. So try it sometime. You'll be hooked.
Yeah. I might have to rent one and try it out.
That's what I did. I rented one here, and I was like, "Oh, this is wonderful."
So take my money. But again, finding the problem that
yep, that's right.
They didn't know. So perfect. So this is the very last question of the show, which is, where can people find out more about you?
Find out more about me. Go to GreenFi and see what it is I'm doing. That's probably the best way to find out about me. I'm on LinkedIn. It's pretty easy to find me there, and it's easy to figure out what my path has been. I'm always happy to talk to people about the path that I've been on and alternative paths, and talk to people about ideas. So I'm pretty easy to reach, and pretty easy to reach at GreenFi as well. So Tim Newell at greenfi.com. That's where I am.
Perfect. Love it. Tim, thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing your insights, and actually, how did you even get to where you are today? It's been such an inspirational journey for sure. Learning to not say no is just a start to getting to that yes. So I want to leave you, the listener who is listening right now, please remember to always put water in your soup. I just want to leave that with you all today.
Well, Anthony, this is great. I really enjoyed.
Record. There we go. There you go. Sorry,
Anthony. I really enjoyed the discussion. We're very happy to be on, and happy to join again sometime when you circle back around. So thank you.
Man, that's awesome. Thank you. All right, y'all be out. You be safe. Peace.
All right. Does that work for you?